Mauritius has no legal or historical claim to the sovereignty of a group of islands that are 1,300 miles away from where it is. Nor does, from the International Court, it was purely an advisory opinion. There is no legal reason why we have to do any of this. Now, I warned the Foreign Secretary 6 weeks ago in this chamber that it was an enormous mistake to do this, given that we had a US presidential election coming up on November the 5th. And if you say to me, well, yes, it's okay, the United States are fully in favour, really? I can tell you that the incoming National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz, has form on this, right back to when the Right Honourable Member for Braintree was doing his best to give away the sovereignty of the Chagos Islands. Indeed, he wrote to Secretary of State Blinken at the time. There is, I can assure you, having been in America last week, knowing also the incoming Defence Secretary very well, there is outright hostility to this deal. Whatever is said about a lease agreement, as we saw with Hong Kong, these agreements can very, very easily be broken. Diego Garcia was described to me by a senior Trump advisor as the most important island on the planet as far as America was concerned. So you're going to find outright hostility. And by the way, when it comes to the Chagosian people, yes, of course, what happened to them was truly awful. They do not wish to live. They're unanimous in this. They do not wish to live under Mauritian rule. They want to live under British rule because they actually trust us. There is no basis for this agreement to continue as it is, and if you do, you'll be at conflict with a country without which we would be defenceless.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm afraid, obviously, I fundamentally disagree with what the honourable gentleman has had to say. Let me be absolutely clear. This government inherited a situation where the long-term secure operation of this crucial military base, he is right on that one point, was under threat. International courts were reaching judgments, international organisations were taking steps not to undermine Mauritian sovereignty, and this threatened the secure and effective operation of the base. And in the absence of a negotiated solution, a legally binding decision against the UK seemed inevitable. This would have threatened the secure and effective operation of the base, and that was not sustainable. I note the comments he makes regarding the incoming US administration. We're looking very forward to working with them, and I'm sure that they will be being briefed on the full detail of this deal. And I am confident, Mr. Speaker, that the details of this arrangement will allay any concerns. We would have not entered into any such arrangement in the first place.
Mr. Francois, I welcome you back to the front bench, but I don't welcome you back to shout from it continuously. Do we understand that we need calm? This is an important debate, so I don't want the rhetoric coming from the Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I've known the honourable gentleman a long time, and he knows he can come and speak to me at any point. No, absolutely, Mr. Speaker, but he can come and speak to me about these matters at any point. Mr. Speaker, we were very, very clear. The US administration that's incoming, we will be working very closely. We're working closely with the current US administration. This had support across the national security apparatus of the United States. We would never have entered into an arrangement. And indeed, of course, the previous government recognised the threats to the long-term operation of this base, which is why they started the negotiations in the first place. But it was this government that did the deal. Diego Garcia is absolutely important, but it is not at risk. It is more secure as a result of this deal. So what he is suggesting is simply not the case. He mentions the Chagosians. We all agree what happened to them in the past was completely wrong and shameful. That's been agreed on all sides of the House. I've engaged with the Chagosian community on a number of occasions. He will also recognise, Mr. Speaker, that there are a range of views across the Chagosian community, including those who support this deal. But we've made sure that their interests are at the heart of this arrangement, whether it's in the trust fund, whether it's in the unilateral arrangements that we will do, the continued commitments to UK citizenship for Chagosians, and, of course, their ability to return, Mr. Speaker, in terms of visits to all the islands and to a part of a resettlement programme that Mauritius will restart as a part of this treaty. So I am confident this deal is the right thing for our national security, it's the right thing for the Chagosian community, and it's the right thing for our allies and partners.
Mr. Speaker, the world is a more dangerous place than ever before in our lifetimes, and this government has agreed to give away a key strategic asset in the Indian Ocean, ending more than 200 years of British sovereignty. It is a wrong decision, and we stand by that completely. A month has now gone since the government's announcement, but we're still in the dark about exactly what the government has agreed, and this is simply not acceptable. We have no treaty, and vital questions remain unanswered. That is unacceptable, and the Minister needs to put that right today. We cannot afford for our military base on Diego Garcia to be compromised in this way. So may I ask, what safeguards will be in place to ensure that no other states can establish themselves or place their assets, and in particular strategic assets, on any nearby islands in the archipelago? And how does this decision affect the strategic defence review that is underway right now? How much money will Labour be asking British taxpayers to send to Mauritius each year under this deal, which we don't even know the details of? Which departmental budgets will this come from? What's the total figure? The House expects transparency on this, Mr Speaker, including about what taxpayers are funding, and we need to hold the government to account on this. So can the Minister please give a cast-iron guarantee that the UK will be able to unilaterally extend the agreement on the military base beyond 99 years? Because that's all we've heard for now. What will be the mechanism for doing this? This is a crucial piece of scrutiny that I think we all need to know about, particularly as the Minister has discussed and raised a point about national security, and the national security apparatus in particular agreeing to this arrangement. And what discussions has the Foreign Secretary, who I know is not here today, has personally undertaken with the Chagosian community, who he will know are beyond distraught about this agreement. The elections in Mauritius and the United States, Mr Speaker, pose further questions, and it's right that we follow up on this. Labour rushed into this deal just before the Mauritian elections, even though ministers surely must have realised a change in government was a strong possibility. Why did they do this? So the Minister does need to be clear about this. We want to know how they're going to engage with the new US administration. And Mr Speaker, this side of the House opposes this government's decision on this, and we intend to hold the government to account.
Mr Speaker, can I firstly welcome the Shadow Foreign Secretary to a place in this chamber. We were in a committee earlier on today, but I welcome her to a place, and as always, I've had a good engagement with her on issues in the past, but she's right to ask important questions. But I think one of the first things I need to do, Mr Speaker, is to correct this idea somehow that we are giving up the base. That's exactly the opposite of what we're doing. We're securing the future of the base. The base will continue to operate. It will continue to operate as it has done. She asks an important question about security guarantees in relation to the outer islands. This is an important question. There will be clear commitments in the treaty for robust security arrangements, including preventing the presence of foreign security forces on the outer islands. We simply would not have signed off an agreement that compromised any of our security interests or those of our allies. And indeed, this has been discussed not just at the political level in the United States, but at a deep technical level. And she will know from her time in government about the nature of the special relationship and the depth of that relationship. And that is why we've only proceeded on the basis that we were all satisfied with these arrangements. And she will be able to scrutinise these in due course, as will the House, Mr Speaker. The treaty will be presented in the usual way after signature. It will go through the usual process. She asked when. We've, of course, just had the Mauritian election. Of course, we'll be engaging with the new administration there. We'll be seeking to present this for signature, and then we will be presenting the treaty in all its detail to the House. She asked about an extension period, Mr Speaker. There is a provision in the treaty for an extension period after the 99-year period. And she asked about the Chagosians. Again, I would gently say there are a range of views in the Chagosian community. Those have been expressed to me on a range of occasions, both before I came into government and since I've been in government. There are a range of views on this arrangement. We respect all the different views that are out there. We will continue to engage with the Chagosian community, but I am absolutely clear that there are important provisions in this deal that support the Chagosian community, both their ability to return to the outer islands, the visits, the trust fund, the unilateral support we will continue to provide, and of course the fact that Chagosians are welcome to come here to the UK and take up British citizenship, which was an agreement under the previous government.